Sinister Sunday, my children! Today's comic comes to us from a Hollywood actor, Dastmalchian, who has been in some cape and costume crowd movies. Also the angry video game nerd movie, apparently. Go figure. Anyway, this is his tribute to the horror hosts he watched as a kid. We begin with a little preview of things to come. September 1983, as a woman dressed like a horror host boozes it up outside a TV station before being met by a ranting and raving man who pulls a gun on her, but then gives the gun to her to try to get her to shoot him, until he transforms into a werewolf. So let's back up a day and meet Jerry Bartman. She was once a promising TV news reporter, but is now doing puff pieces for the local Renaissance fair. Unfortunately, when she tries to reveal that the fair has been swapping their ale with cheap wine, she's tossed into the mud and rants about how much she hates the small town live on air. Her brother is the owner of the station and is increasingly frustrated with her because her alcoholism is causing issues for them, like her ranting about the town. Said brother, Ben, inherited the news station from their parents and has one final job she can do. Rich Barnes, who would normally be their horror host, Count Crowley, has gone missing. He wants Jerry to take his place. The show needs a host since it brings in more ad revenue on their weekend programming, but she just thinks of it as the final indignity and refuses. Until her landlord reminds her that her rent is way past due. She goes in, puts on the makeup, and, hating horror movies, decides to insult both the audience watching and the movie. Which happens to be Jesse James meets Frankenstein's daughter, which, yeah, not the best, but I've seen worse. However, it turns out her angry ranting is pretty engaging for the audience. Sure, not everybody liked it, but it got a lot of attention to the station. That leads us into the intro where she is attacked by the werewolf. While she flees in her car, we get to see a fun little tribute to comic horror hosts, as each issue features a different one acting as a narrator for the end of an issue. And as a horror host myself, I deeply appreciate the tribute. Jerry thinks she's having a nervous breakdown from her alcoholism, at least until she runs over the werewolf and unloads the gun he gave her into it. The werewolf flees, surviving silver bullets, until she's found unconscious the next morning by a former classmate who's now a cop. She claims a dog attacked her, but her history with alcohol doesn't help people believe her. She goes to her brother to ask about the guy who played Count Crowley before her, but he knows nothing about the actor, though there was someone in the role before Barnes, Vincent Freitz, who was around doing the gig even before their parents took over the station. The only one who knew anything about Barnes was the sound guy who's hard of hearing, but enough of that. The cop shows up and tells Ben about the drunk driving. The two encourage her to go to Alcoholics Anonymous, but she's too wrapped up in trying to find out about what happened to her. She goes to Barnes's old house, breaking into it and discovering it full of deadly traps. And a cat! The cat is actually able to lead her to things, like a key for his locked office. His answering machine mentions Victor Freitz is currently in a retirement home, and that Barnes would visit him. However, she's not the only one breaking into the house, as a ghoulish, almost Frankenstein monster-esque figure comes in looking for something. She flees from the creature with the cat, even cutting off the creature's hand in the process. She tries to tell Ben about what happened at Barnes's house, but the hand crawled away on its own before she could show it, and Ben's wife berates Jerry over how much damage she's done to Ben's life. With no one else to turn to, she goes to see Victor Freitz. He thinks she's a witch at first, but when the fermented Lagusia thrown in her face doesn't harm her, he realizes she's human. He's pissed at her already for ruining his show, but when she explains about the werewolf and the creature that attacked her, and that Barnes is missing, he says that the end game is approaching and there's nothing they can do to stop it. There are forces at work that have been around for millennia plotting to destroy mankind, but only a few appointed people could stop it. Traditional methods of stopping monsters are fake, and no one will believe her if she tries to look for proof. And just to really tip his hand, he says she couldn't help even if she wanted to. Women are not appointed. Maybe they should be, since it seems the guys have done a pretty crappy job of stopping it so far. She steals a book he had on all this and tries to study it, but with her frayed nerves, she finally elects to attend an AA meeting. However, she's reminded of something the werewolf said and begins looking into it, but then receives a phone call from someone at her old job, finally revealing the source of her alcoholism. Jerry was on her way to a promising career as an anchorwoman and reporter in Cleveland, until at an office party, her co-anchor sexually assaulted her. She tried to report it to her superiors, but they all believe she imagined the whole thing while drunk and don't think the co-anchor could have done such a thing, firing her and ruining her career. And that guy had the gall to call her again in the middle of all this. What the hell? Pissed off with that and the sexist comment by Frights, she goes back to him to demand to know how to kill monsters. The creature that attacked her was a Bilatombia, a walking corpse that acted as a servant for its master. It can turn victims of it into more slaves that eventually turn into more Bilatombia. Barnes was on the trail of a powerful sect of vampires when he disappeared, and that they were beginning to target sources of news and information around the country, including those in charge of TV stations. Worried about her brother, she wants to go and protect him, but first he gives her an axe to deal with the creature. She manages to stop him before he can attack her brother, dismembering him until he's reduced to dust. Jerry then reveals her AA coin to Ben to show that she's serious about changing and is happy to take on the Count Crowley job. And thus she begins her new career, asking the sound man about Barnes, who only says he had a lot on his mind, able to mock the movie and audience while also doing some self-deprecation with it to balance things out. While doing her AA meetings, she also spots the werewolf man again. And sadly, it seems the vampires have been informed by their undead, now completely dead, servant that Count Crowley is involved in things. And this is not the end for Jerry, because there was a sequel miniseries and a crossover. But those are for another year.